Hi Sonia, this is Bev. Okay, let's take a look at your essays. Right. So, the issue of internet usage in numerous educational institutions is a contentious issue which has grown in importance over the years. Despite the tremendous benefits that can be derived um, from it or from using it, that can be derived, can be derived, comma, it should not be forgotten that the internet is a relatively new phenomenon and still at an early age or still in its early stages. Okay. This essay will discuss both issues using examples from the UK and the business world, excuse me, to demonstrate points and support arguments. On the one hand, there is ample evidence, no S. Okay, evidence is a really plural, to suggest that the benefits of the internet are increasing, especially related to an academic environment. This is because when a school is connected, it has faster access to more information. Full stop. Furthermore, you need to change this word bestow. Okay, go and check up the meaning and how to use it. Furthermore, it can facilitate increased efficiency. Okay, for example, in certain schools across the UK, comma, matters such as absenteeism, disciplinary procedures, and general communication can be performed over the internet, lowercase, through email. Okay, and email is usually hyphenated. Okay, therefore, comma, it is clear that if the internet continues gaining in popularity, you could even say continues gaining popularity, there would be more positive spin offs or gains to be made. Implication is often has a negative association, so try to use a different word. Okay. On the other hand, let's go to your next two paragraphs. On the other hand, one of the negative effects of being connected is the possible over reliance on the private sector. Okay, by private sector, that you usually use that to differentiate between government and business sectors. But I think you want to say something else. The over reliance on the internet or being globally connected. I'm not sure what you want to say there. This is due to the fact that educators are getting into the habit of consulting Google for answers. Full stop. This may be argued as putting too much faith into the hands of technology or too much faith in the hands of the internet. Okay? Because Google is an internet search engine. It's not the technology of the computer, but the fact that we are linked to the internet. For example, recent studies by a national teachers union in which country? Okay, showed that 12.3% of search engine results could be dubious, largely due to private enterprises tampering with search engine optimization results. Okay, you need to put that in full. Okay. Therefore, comma, the over-reliance on technology or the internet and search engines, instead of acquiring knowledge in a traditional manner, could be questioned. To conclude, although knowledge acquisition online is not perilous means something that will kill you. Okay? You need to go look up the meaning of the word and how to use it, and you need to replace it with another word. I think you want to say a contentious issue, a debatable issue, an ongoing issue. Okay? There is still efficiency and operational advantages to be gained, full stop. For this reason, comma, I believe that school internet connectivity is a positive development. Okay, all right, good. Sonia, you've written here timely to replace with what? I can't find where you've put that, but depending on what you want to say, if something is done within the right period of time, then it is timeously. Okay, um, timely is not really It depends on where you've got it in the sentence. I can't find where you've done it. I think it's to do with your communication essay. Okay, I'll have a look at it as we go through. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, the issue of decreased communication between family members has grown in importance in the last decade. Good. Although it is believed that people spend less time in direct face-to-face communication, it must not be forgotten that the quality of communication is of the utmost importance. This essay will illustrate that the quality of delivered information, maybe you want to say shared communication, interpersonal communication, is more crucial than the quantity alone. Using examples to demonstrate points and support my arguments. Okay. Firstly, if family members are separated for many hours during the day, then they can still stay in touch with one another through social networking sites on the internet and through the use of mobile technology. This is largely because people spend a considerable amount of time on commuting nowadays. For example, recent studies conducted in Australia show that many of the technologies used by young people, such as the internet and instant messaging, are now used by 95% of families in Australia. In addition, devices such as mobile phones are present almost everywhere. Therefore, accessing people is so much easier these days, and in particular, when there is an emergency, it is easier to get hold of somebody. Very good. Right. Secondly, when the family is together at home, they have the option of accessing a variety of media, such as the internet, television, radio, and online games. Watching television and then talking about it are important parts of social interaction and cultural literacy for both children and adults. For example, a recent Australian study showed that almost 50% of the time children and young people spend watching television with adults. Okay, that sounds as though your sentence is going to go on further. That sentence seems to be missing something, Sonia. For example, a recent Australian study showed that almost 50% of the time, what you want to say is this can be supported by the fact that, okay, which might be a better way to start off that sentence, because you're supporting what you're saying there. Okay, then your next sentence says, furthermore, almost all parents reported spending time discussing adult concepts on television with their children. Therefore, it can be seen from these examples that if the family is able to spend quality time together, it brings the family together as a whole. Good. To conclude, from the examples and arguments given, I firmly believe that quality communication is still present between family members, even though you might want to add the quantity may be less than in the past, because in your first paragraph you're talking about quality versus quantity. Okay, so you need to make that connection there as well. Okay, good work. Very good. Okay, let's take a look at your copyright laws. Okay, the issue of intellectual property laws has grown in importance over the past few decades. Since the internet has been widely used in many households, especially in developed countries, take away that, it is felt that creativity is limited by these laws, and society would function better without them. This essay will discuss both issues using examples to demonstrate points and support arguments. Fantastic introduction, Sonia. Perfect. Okay, firstly, it is okay, we don't say in nature of human beings, we say that it is human nature, okay, to be creative, and or you want to say it is natural for human beings to be creative, and they should be able to use various tools to express themselves. Alright? People are not meant to be read only. What do you mean by that? I don't understand. And also, possibility to express things differently is one of the main principles of democracy. Huh? Thus, this development will not be stopped due to existing copyright laws. Okay. Uh, okay. Copyright laws has got nothing to do with democracy. Be careful what you're saying here, because then you are actually not answering the question. It's about copyright laws and about media. It's got nothing to do with democracy. Democracy versus communism, okay? That's a political thing. This has got nothing to do with politics. This has got to do with media. For example, an international flight is not breaching the rules of trespassing, and this had to be confirmed once by Supreme Court. The same way, any user-generated content that is made while recreating something cannot be marked as piracy. Therefore, since a consumer consumes the creativity, he or she should be allowed to be a creator as well. Okay, Tanya, this paragraph is problematic. Okay, you've confused a few concepts here, and you are digressing from the question. You're not actually answering the question. Okay, it's very confusing. I think from knowing the questions, okay, I think what you're trying to say here is that there are some things that people who are creative need to use as a starting point, okay, that inspires them, and that does not necessarily that's not necessarily considered piracy, okay, but you need to explain that a bit more, okay. Someone who reading this just without knowing the questions or being familiar with this wouldn't actually get your point in this paragraph, so you need to relook at that one quite earnestly, quite closely. Okay, secondly, government should carefully review what is an infringement of copyright law. If that is not a viable option, then authors should be given permission on things to be available for non-commercial use. What do you mean on things to be available for non-commercial use? Then the competition would be felt between markets having freer and less free content, which is very healthy. For example, in 1939, the legal cartel ASCAP, that primarily controlled the performance rights, broke because broadcasters shifted to competition, BMI. Although they had less popular content but offered content for free to their subscribers. Thus, using any material for non-commercial use should be permitted in content industry for free, while it should be paid for commercial use. Okay, this paragraph also, I'm sorry Sonia, you need to rephrase it. Okay, you're mixing up a few concepts here. You need to stick to the question about whether copyright law helps people that are copyright is usually got to do with music and writing. So maybe you could use those as examples, okay? And it's not about markets and competition, okay? It's about creative people, whether they need to protect their intellectual property or their creative property, or whether that creative property should be available in a way, as you see. I know you're trying to get here by saying about commercial use, but you need to explain it in a way that it's for people who are using it as a form of reference or as a point of inspiration. Okay, you need to have a relook at these two paragraphs. They are problematic, okay. The point that you're putting across is confusing, okay. To conclude from the examples and arguments given, I firmly believe that without copyright laws, society would be better. Take away that. But there still should be a rewarding model for the original creators of the content. Okay, a rewarding model. I think what you want to say is there should still perhaps be some kind of protection, such as patents, okay, for those people who have created something original. Okay. Okay, so you need to relook at this. As it stands, you would get a very low band score here, okay, because your topic, the answering the question has you haven't answered the question. You've diverged a little bit. Some of the points are not relevant, and it's also very difficult for the reader to make sense. So you would lose with coherence and cohesion. Let's just check your word count. It looks okay. 316. Okay, it's plenty. All right. So give that one a go. All right.